From Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment capital of the world, I'm David Gavri, and this is the Vegas Faces podcast, where we talk with Las Vegas locals about what it's really like to live in the City of Lights. Whether you're living in Vegas, moving to Vegas, or just visiting Vegas and looking for new adventures, together let's discover the hidden gems that make Sin City the most visited place on earth. Hey everybody, welcome to the Vegas Faces podcast, where we explore the everyday side of Vegas and what it's like to live in the entertainment capital. I'm David Gavri. Shout out to producer Paul behind the scenes, making us all look good. This week's topic is Best Vegas Shows. With us today is Ryan Rausch. He lived in Vegas nearly 20 years, and he worked for Cirque du Soleil for most of those years. He's going to tell us all about what it's like to work for one of the best shows in all of Las Vegas. Ryan, welcome to Vegas Faces. Let's kick this off with, why is Cirque du Soleil so popular here in Las Vegas?
Hey, David. Okay, to really understand the success of Cirque, you probably have to go back to the late 80s and Steve Wynn. And he was really like the big advocate for the company. When he was opening up the Mirage and then Treasure Island right after that, he first brought in Cirque as a tent show, and they set up, I think, behind the Mirage there. Got huge success. And so then when he built Treasure Island, he decided to put in like a resident permanent show there, and that was Mystere. And it was like just a huge success. And then, of course, if you know Steve Wynn's trajectory, he then went on to build the Bellagio and had this whole concept of so it was a water show with Cirque. And that show to this day is still their most popular show in Vegas. They sell really well. And from there, they just kept expanding. I think at their height, there were 8 different productions on the Strip.
Wow, I did not know that about Steve Wynn. He's an eccentric character. Just the fact that he was part of the building of those Bellagio fountains, and then, of course, what he did with the Wynn and the Encore. And I believe he started with the Golden Nugget downtown. Wasn't that his first?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Just the fact that this was his fascination. He decides, I want to make a show out of this. And now it's literally in every single hotel on the Las Vegas Strip.
There's a lot of them. Yeah. I had the pleasure to work with 4 of the different productions, and all 4 of them were so incredibly different. The coolest part, though, I think for me, is I got in kind of right at the beginning of Zumanity. So that was their 3rd show that they opened in Vegas. And I started there just working front of house as an usher, and then worked my way up into supervisor. And then I got a call to head over across the street to MGM, and they were opening up Ka at that time. So this would have been 04, I think. And yeah, I started working behind the scenes on Ka, then worked my way up into company management. I don't know if you've seen these shows, but the technical side of them is just unlike anything you've ever seen. I mean, they have touring shows as well in their tents, and those are also incredible. But when they build a theater specifically for the show, it's just the amount of money that went into it. They used to talk about Ka, and this was back in, like I said, like 03, 04, when they were building the show. It was something close to 200 million to put that theater in that show. I mean, it's just an insane amount. They talk about the most expensive shows on Broadway. I think Spider-Man was, touted as being like the most expensive show on Broadway, and that was around 60 or 65 million, something like that. So it just gives you like the scale of what Cirque shows are like.
God, wow. And where do they even find these performers? Are these like Olympians?
Yeah, so they have a whole casting department, right? And there's a lot of different methods. I mean, with social media now, I think they find a lot of people online that way. But of course, they do hold auditions throughout the world. And then when they're looking for something really specific, like, for example, is a water show, right? So you have like synchronized swimmers in there. And so then, they do look for Olympians when it comes to certain really specific sports. But anyone, they do hold open auditions too. So like sometimes you can go just to an open call, or maybe a performer that's already in the show has someone that they know that has a specific talent, and so they'll reach out to casting and be like, hey, my friend is really good at this, this, and this. And sometimes they can get a private audition in that case, which is really cool. So there's kind of, they keep it open to a lot of different avenues of where they can get their casting.
And how often does Cirque normally perform? Is it 3 days a week, 4 days a week, every single night?
It sort of depends on the season, but in general, they would do 5 days a week. So, and they would try to, because there's so many different shows on the strip, they would stagger them, right? So, like the dark days for one show will be different than another show, so that if someone is, coming to the city, that just about any night of the week, there's at least a couple of options for them to go see a show. But the cast of each production would do, on average, 10 shows a week.
God, that's a lot of shows, which makes sense as to why you need your own
Yeah.
theater. I mean, how would they set up and break down and all the moving pieces that go into these shows? I can't
Yeah.
imagine. That gives me anxiety.
And just the other thing is the size of the crew. So when I worked at Ka, um, when you counted the cast and the crew together, it was almost 300 people working on that show.
Oh man.
You have
Wow. And
full crews that work just during the day to do maintenance backstage, and then of course you have front of house, and then you have uh, all the different departments, when it's wardrobe and lighting and sound and rigging, props. I mean, it's just carpentry. There's so many different departments, and each of those departments have a huge staff, and so yeah, it's pretty incredible.
wow. Is there like a hardest job in the whole production? Is there like a hardest position or anything like that?
Mm, that's a good question. I think. I mean, if you're talking about the performance side of things versus like the technical side, uh, one of the hardest jobs I would say would be in the tech department, looking at safety, right? And so that's something that they take very seriously, of course. But you have a lot of people's lives, uh, that you have to keep them safe at all times. So I think that would be a stressful job for sure. When it comes to, like, say, the toll on your body, it really depends on what act you're doing in the show. So some of those disciplines, year over year, doing that on your body can get, really take its toll on your body. So I guess there are some, and some of the acrobats you'd have to talk to find out, like, which roles they would say are the most demanding, I guess, on your body.
Yeah, it's like any other sport. Basketball player, football
Yeah,
player, anyone, any physical sport. I mean, it takes a toll. It puts a lot of pressure on your body. So, which
yeah,
is how we met you. And as the Cirque du Soleil performers were transitioning into real estate, that's how Mary
yeah,
met you guys. And it's really awesome. But also, it makes sense. It's like, yeah, you obviously cannot do this forever. It's such a demanding position. It's such a intense thing to do. Kudos for even doing it as long as you did it.
yeah. Yeah, for me, working on the management side was like a completely different ball game. I loved it. I loved getting to meet people from all over the world. Um, it's just, you get so many different perspectives, and Vegas becomes like a real melting pot, especially in that small community. Uh, what's really cool is backstage on a lot of the shows, they will have, like at Ka, we had this large atrium backstage that took you up to the office level and everything. And it was, you would look up like 3 or 4 floors. And on that, they would hang all of the flags from the different countries that were represented by cast and crew members on the show. And so you just get to see like how many countries are there represented, and it's awesome. A lot of the other shows will do that. They'll hang the flags up in, say, like the training room or something like that backstage. So it's just really cool, and a great way to be exposed to people from all different cultures. It's awesome.
Mm. Do you think that plays into? I guess my question is, why do you think this show is so popular and has stuck around for so long? Is it the fact, because to me it reminds me of watching the Olympics, and it's like an Olympic level production, but you only get to see the Olympics every 4 years, whereas a show like Cirque, you could see it almost every day of the week, no matter where you're at, which
Yeah.
hotel you're at, and it's just such a wow spectacle that I mean, it's been around for at least 15, 20 years now, right?
Oh, longer than that. So the company itself was founded in 1984, and then they started their Vegas residencies basically when Treasure Island opened. So I want to, I don't know exactly, but I want to say that was like early 90s, um, or mid 90s, maybe 94 ish or something like that, is about the era that it started in Vegas. And then they kind of expanded from there too. So Vegas was the first um, city that Cirque put resident shows in, and then from there they expanded to Orlando. For a time, they had one in LA, New York, Tokyo, Macau. Um, Now they have one in Mexico. So they've just kept expanding over the years. But I think Vegas was what really, really put them on the map as far as like the massive spectacle of the shows that they are.
And again, real quick, what were the shows that you worked on and which hotels are they at?
Yeah, so I worked as Humanity when they first opened. That was at New York, New York. That show actually closed during COVID, unfortunately. So, but they had a great run. I mean, they opened in 2003. So from 2003 to 2020 is an incredible run. You know, thousands and thousands of shows they did there. So, um, but yeah, that was sad to see that one go. They have since opened up another production at the same theater, New York, New York, and that's called Mad Apple. Um, I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard great things about it. And then I went over to Ka, which was at MGM Grand, and that's still playing. Still a fantastic show. Just the the technical side of that show is really unlike anything anyone has ever seen. I guarantee it. Um, then I went over to the Beatles Love. So if you're a fan of Beatles music, and that was really cool to work there because um, you would get to see. So it's in partnership with um, Ringo and Paul and Yoko um, and Olivia Harrison. So they would come to the show occasionally, and they obviously had a lot of input on the show. They're partners in it. So while I was there, the last couple of years that I was there, we were going through what they called a refresh. So the show was about 10 years old or a little bit more at the time. And they wanted to make some changes to the show, change out some of the music, add some new acts, things like that. And so it was really cool during that whole process to have them coming to Vegas and, you know, putting their input in on all of this. It was really awesome to get to hang out with them and backstage and just listen to their whole process of what they wanted the show to be like, and it was really cool.
Wow, that's awesome. What do you think it is about the O show at Bellagio that makes that one the best show?
Yeah, so um, I mean, I wouldn't go to say it's the best. I think everyone has their favorites. My actual favorite personally is Michael Jackson 1. I love the music there. It just, I think there's also some nostalgia from, you know, my era listening to growing up listening to that music, and so that one kind of has a special place in my heart. But um, O's success, you know, I think it has a lot to do with just the initial success of the Bellagio, to be honest. So when that hotel opened, I mean, it was like unlike any other resort in the world, right? And so you had so many people coming, flocking just to see that resort and then to see this show on top of it. And it was something that was just never before seen kind of thing. And being a water show is very different than your normal stage production, right? So the audience was getting to see something that they had never seen before, combining circus acts and then with a giant pool instead of a typical stage. It was just something that no one had really seen before. Um, so yeah, I think that's why it's so successful. And then, you know, for many years we used to joke about how the company as a whole barely even had to advertise for O. You know, they spend so much on marketing and all these different productions, and O was one of the ones that was kind of just like the cash cow, right? Like it was people were going to flock to it no matter what, um, and it's really held on over the years, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in awe of the Bellagio. Like any chance to see the
Yeah,
fountain, like I never get bored of seeing those fountains. I never get
me
bored of
either.
the conservatory inside, all the flowers and how they change it every season,
Yeah,
and even those stained glass on the ceiling. Like, I mean, you
yeah,
could have built it. They might as well have built it yesterday. The way that I walk around the Bellagio, and it's been around over 20 years.
yeah, and you can't. There's no video footage ever of the Las Vegas Strip that doesn't include the Bellagio and the fountains, right? I mean, it's iconic kind of for the city.
Yeah, 100%. There was a funny April Fool's joke about water conservation. It came out about, oh, they're going to get rid of the fountains for water conservation, and all these people bought into it. But like, I could not imagine
Yeah,
Vegas
no,
without the Bellagio fountains. Like it is, like you said, it is a staple on the skyline. Uh,
yep.
it's just, it's always, to me, it'll always be part of Vegas. I don't see how you could ever get rid of them.
I guarantee you, every time you have family or friends that come in from out of town, you're going to take them there every time, right? I mean, it's one of those things that you have to do. And it tells you something when you can say, like, after living there for that many years, that you never got bored of it, you know? Like, I could go there anytime and watch, especially at night, with the lights and the music. It's incredible. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's stunning. I mean, to the point where you'll go across the street to any of the restaurants like Mon Ami, Gabi,
Yeah.
or Beer Park
Mhm.
just to have the view. Like the food, I mean, the food's fantastic too, but
Yeah.
just to have that view, I mean, it's stunning.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Us humans, we're so silly that we get so easily entertained with these same old fountains and water and lights, but I mean, it works. It totally works.
It
It's
does.
hilarious.
Yep.
I want to know more about what does it take to have like a successful show in Las Vegas? I mean, this is the entertainment capital, and shows in this town come and go. Like, what
Yeah.
mechanic behind the scenes, you especially working behind the scenes, did you notice that the successful shows are doing X, Y, and Z differently than the shows that don't last here?
Yeah, I think, the thing about Vegas is it's always changing, right? And it's always evolving. I think that's what keeps the city relevant to begin with, right? So, um, with Cirque, they had a brand that just really resonated, and it was a global brand, right? Because the touring shows travel all over the place, right? So they had that recognition to go along with it. Similar to, in some ways, you could say, like a bringing in a headliner, right? Like they have the recognition. So you have, when Celine was there, I mean, she was huge, right? And I hear maybe she's even coming back again. I don't know, but same kind of thing. Like you have this brand recognition, and that's what really, I think, keeps them going for sure.
Let's shift over to Vegas. This is a Vegas podcast after all, right? So,
Yeah.
you lived here a good amount of time. What is something about living in Vegas that maybe most people don't realize? Most people don't know.
Let's see. So actually, one of my favorite things about living there was actually going up to Mount Charleston. So anyone that knows Vegas knows in the summer it gets obviously horribly hot, right? So, but what a lot of people don't know is that you can escape the heat pretty easily and quickly. I lived on the northwest side of the valley, so getting up to Mount Charleston was like 40 minutes maybe, and the temperature would just drop by like 20 or 30 degrees once you got up to the mountain. So to take your dog up there or friends and just go and like have a picnic or take a hike or something like that, be among the trees, it's much cooler. It's just a great way to kind of escape the heat. So and there's, this, but a lot of people don't know that you can actually go skiing up there in the winter, and people are like, what, near Vegas you can go skiing? But yeah.
Yeah, and they run that ski lift during the summer. You could just hop on the ski lift
Yeah,
during the
I've
summer and just go for a nice scenic, I don't know, ski lift ride.
yeah, I did that with my family when they came. I took them
Yeah,
up there, and it was like during the summer too, and it was great to get up there and, yeah, cool off and do the ski lift. It was pretty cool.
yeah. I'd say every 4th of July, we've always ended up in Mount Charleston just because it's like blistering hot down in the valley. We just go up there and have a little 4th of July
Yeah,
picnic.
it's cool when you get up there or even out towards Red Rock on the 4th, because when the elevation goes up, if you go at night, then you can start to see the fireworks going off all over the valley, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, the views out here, I mean, between the mountain views and the strip views, and then, of course,
Yeah.
fireworks, and like we had the Tropicana implosion. There's always
I
something to watch.
Yeah, that implosion was insane. What they did with the drones and everything, oh, it was so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's the only city on the planet where we celebrate exploding buildings and we throw a party.
Yep. Yep. I was right out front for the explosion of the Frontier when they did that. And what was really crazy about that was, so if you remember, that's like across the street from the Wynn and next door to the Fashion
Resort
Show
World?
Mall.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, well, this is before Resort World was even built, right? So it was, they had already imploded at that time. They had already imploded the Stardust, which is where Resorts World was going. But next door to that was the New Frontier. And when they did that implosion, they had to, and I was on the street for it. It was so cool. They closed off Las Vegas Boulevard, and you could hang out there. Um, they put these giant tarps over the side of the Wynn Hotel, and over the side of the fashion show mall. And so it was just crazy. And they did that for all the dust, right? So after the implosion, it was just this massive plume of dust that was just shifting over towards the Wynn Resort. And I just kept thinking like, oh, Steve Wynn, this has to be, he must be going crazy over this because he's such a perfectionist with how his resorts look. And this just, the dust was everywhere. It was crazy.
Didn't you guys, by the way, we'll talk a little bit Vegas real estate, especially Vegas housing,
Yeah.
or just your thoughts on it while you were here. But didn't you guys work with Steve Wynn on buying or selling one of his houses at one point?
Yeah. So a little backstory. So when I was at the Beatles Love, Brendan King was one of the performers there, and him and I would talk real estate constantly. And when I decided that it was time for me to leave Cirque, he approached me because I was going to sell my house and I was going to have him sell it, and then decided not to go that route. And he said, "Well, why don't you get into real estate?" He's like, "You talk about it all the time." He said, "I want to start a team. Let's work together." And so I did, and it was like the greatest like career move that I could have made to be under his mentorship because he's so great. And a testament to that would be him actually working with Steve Wynn on the purchase of a house, and it was this amazing house in Summerlin. Of course, it was absolutely stunning. And after he bought it, he was tearing all kinds of stuff out that was newly renovated, and he wanted to change it. So, but yeah, I did get to tour the house while it was under contract. I never did see the finished product, but got to see it when they were under contract, and it was a stunning property, like just incredible.
Man, that's got to be insane. Like just the fact that, like you said, he's a perfectionist. He's like, nah, I don't like
Yeah,
it. I know it's new, but
yeah,
nah, not my style. Let's
I
just
know.
rip it out and start fresh.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
listened to an interview. Steve Aoki did a similar thing. Like he bought
mm,
a house for like 3 million, but then he put 5 million into it
yeah,
because he just wanted to make it his own out in Henderson.
yeah. I was gonna say that was it. Was that in Askaya? Is that where he bought?
Not sure exactly. He just talked about. He goes, yeah, for $8 million instead. Comparing it to California prices, like I got my dream home in Vegas for only less than $10 million,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. I don't know if you've been up in Askaya to see like the clubhouse or any of the properties up there, but I mean they have incredible views too, just being up on the mountain and overlooking the whole valley. But that development is really, really stunning. Some of the homes up there are beautiful, modern, contemporary homes that, yeah, I mean, they're awesome.
Yeah, like while you were in Vegas, you did real estate in Vegas. You now do real estate in
Hmm.
Chicago. Like, what did
Yeah.
you see while you were here? What do you see from Vegas now? If you still watch Vegas housing, how is
Yeah.
it different from the rest of the nation when it comes to real estate? When people ask, how's the market? What are your thoughts overall on
Yeah.
Vegas real estate?
So the thing about Vegas, first of all, I think a lot of people from outside of Vegas don't understand like how much the city has grown and how fast it's grown. So I moved there in '02, and if you could take an aerial shot of the valley then and compare it to now, I mean, not only does the strip look completely different, but the way the city has expanded, especially west, like, the 215, that wasn't even a thing. That Summerlin was this tiny little pocket, and it has like expanded, exponentially. So new construction is such a huge thing there. And that's one of the things that makes it so different from Chicago, where you have, these neighborhoods that have been around forever, versus Vegas, you know, 15 years ago, a whole section of the city didn't even exist, right? Um, it's definitely had its ups and downs. I was there during the crash and, you know, saw how everything just kind of plummeted, and then was there getting into real estate as it was like rebounding, right? And even since I've left, so I've been gone for about 4 years, the house that my last house that I lived in that I sold during the pandemic, during 2020, um, I still get the valuations coming through, and I can see how the prices in the last 4 years have gone up so much just from 2020. And
Wow.
I think my house, that house sold for around 385, I want to say, and the valuations now are over 500,000 on that same property in just
Wow.
4 years. So yeah. So people who got into the real estate at the right time there, I mean, it's always about timing, right? But the thing is, like, people are saying, is real estate? are we in a bubble? But I think the reality is we're not going to see real estate take a dip until we have enough inventory. Because right now, there's just not a lot of properties out there. And I think this goes back to the crash in '08, and a lot of home builders stopped building. And so I think they said nationally we're something like 3 million housing properties short of where we should be. And
Wow.
so that's going to take, they said, like years and years to try to catch up on that. So people that are worried that we're in a bubble, I don't really see that, to be honest. I think as long as there's low supply and high demand, this is what we're going to see.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, like you said, the expansion of Vegas is so fast and it's not stopping. They're talking about an NBA team now. They've already
Yeah.
figured out where they're going to build the NBA arena, and it's just like maybe they're just making up from being shut down during COVID, but it's just they say that hospitality is the number one industry, but actually supposedly the number one industry here is construction. And it's just
Yeah.
it's nonstop. And I don't unless another black swan event happens. I don't see why. What would be the reason for them to stop all of a sudden?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's also, I think it's interesting to see, like I said, Vegas is always reinventing themselves. And I think sports was like that's probably the biggest change in the last 10 years for sure. I would say with the city is, bringing in professional sports teams. Um, and I'm curious what the next thing will be beyond that. Right. So, I guess we'll have to see, but Vegas, if anything, they're always going to find something new to bring people in.
Yeah, by then we'll be too old, and I'll just want to go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Probably. Yeah.
Ryan, before we wrap up, got any Vegas recommendations? I know it's been a few years since you've lived here, but what
Yeah.
were your favorite restaurants, bars, things to do, hidden gems, you name it?
Yeah, I would say, well, my favorite restaurant for sure is Herbs and Rye. Have you been?
Yes, excellent. Hard to get a
Yeah.
table.
I
You got to
mean,
make a reservation way
I
in
know.
advance.
Yeah, and for those listening to the podcast that aren't familiar, I mean, it's not on the strip. It's off the strip. It's in a kind of just this very average looking random location in the city. But the food is incredible. The drinks are really great. The staff is awesome. Every time I had friends or family coming into town, I would always take them out there because it's a gem for sure. What else? I also really like Chinatown. I think there's a lot of cool stuff there over on Spring Mountain. There's some cool restaurants there, a couple of cool bakeries over there that are really good. I love the 85 degrees. I used to go there constantly. I mean, when it first opened, there was just a line out the door, people trying to get in there. But um, that's always a great option. Other areas is I love the Arts District. I would love, I'd love to get back there to see actually how that's changed over the last 4 years. When I was there, it was really popular, cool little bars, cafes, everything. What I would love to see Vegas do is add residential into that area. There's some open vacant lots or some redevelopment opportunities, I think. I don't know. Have they started any of that, or is that something that's on the horizon, do you think?
I think so. They're revamping. I mean, they've been revamping downtown for a long time, and it's
Yeah.
really cool to see because not only are they giving downtown a makeover, but they're still giving it that old vintage look. Like they haven't
Yeah.
updated the
Oh, cool.
architecture or anything like that. Like they still give it that old classic look with a new spin, and it's really fun. And if I was, in my early 20s, that would probably be the spot if I was to live there. But
Yeah.
I'm a family man living in the burbs and I'm happy with that. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that you can just walk outside and just be in the mix with all the
Yeah.
bars, the restaurants, all the fun, and then you've got Fremont not too far away. I mean, downtown is its own
That's
really fun vibe.
that's the other place is Fremont East. I mean, like if when I was there in the early 2000s, Fremont East was just like an area that nobody went to. Same thing with the Arts District. It was just like these dead zones, right? And then to see that transformation is really cool. And I think, yeah, I think it's going to continue to expand, as time goes on. Even, just opening up Circa downtown, right? I mean, that was like a big
Yeah.
bump for old Vegas, and just kind of shows you that they're never going to stop there, right? They're always going to keep trying something new, developing something new, and that's what makes Vegas Vegas.
Totally. In fact, I mean, of all the houses I show, we mainly work Summerlin, Henderson, mostly cookie
Yeah,
cutter neighborhoods. But it's so exciting and fun to see like an old vintage Vegas that they just gutted and
yeah,
redid on the inside. And it's just got character that you don't see. Obviously, we love Summerlin, we love Henderson, like we love all the
yeah,
burb. But man, is it fun to see these like old ranch style homes that are just completely redone and
yep,
revamped. And like unlike any other home that you'll see in any other neighborhood.
yeah. Paradise Palms is such a cool neighborhood downtown, on the golf course there. What other ones? I mean, the Las Vegas Country Club has some really cool custom homes, and yeah, they're like right in the heart of all of it, which is really cool.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, it's been really fun. Before we go, where can people
Yeah,
find you? Where can they check you out? If they want to work with you in Chicago, how can they get a hold of you?
yeah. RyanRausch.com. Simple as it goes. That's RyanRausch.com.
Awesome, awesome. Instagram, socials?
Yeah, Ryan in Chicago is my Instagram. I use that quite a bit, so yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much. This has been awesome. You were
Yeah,
amazing. And I must say, thank you for now being one of the Vegas Faces.
yeah. Thanks so much, David.
Thank you for subscribing to Vegas Faces on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok under the name Gavri Group. That's Gavri Group. Thanks, everybody. See you at the next episode.